If you have a local club auction or swap that's about to happen, and maybe you're getting ready to prep plants, or maybe even some fish for the very first time, I'm going to go through my method for plants, because that's what I typically sell, not fish. And we'll talk about what I do, what I tend to sell, what I like to sell, and we'll walk around the fish room and talk about how we get all these things prepped for a local club auction. Hello everyone, this is Bentley, and today I've got some maintenance to do. I have a club auction coming up. Actually, at the time that this video releases, I'm at that auction. So I need to go through some of my tanks and get some plants thinned out, get them prepped, get them in bags. And I wanted to walk through that process, kind of show you how I select my plants, what I'm looking for. And let's get into the first part. What do I use? Ziplocs. I'm boring. I don't go get specific fish bags. I just use standard Ziploc bags. They're probably actually slightly more expensive. I buy mine through Costco, but, getting fish bags, I don't have events as often because we don't have swaps as often as we used to in the Northwest. So typically I'm just doing stuff for club auctions, and there's only 2 a year where I'm allowed to submit more than like 5 or 6 items. So I typically don't need a huge number of bags. So I just stick to your standard Ziploc. Now, thankfully, my club has a system for labeling all of their plants and stuff like that that is pre-built into our registration software, so I can literally print off labels that are nice and easy to read. But otherwise, let's go through some of the process. So the first thing, let's talk about, I've got multiple tanks we need to go through. This one's got some algae going on in it, so we're going to have to clean that up as a part of it. We're pulling out some crypts out of fallen forest. We're doing some Java fern out of a number of different tanks. And we're even going to pull some crypts out of the Angels tank over that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you to each tank and kind of show you the plants I'm looking at. And then I'll get them all bagged up and get them ready to go. So that being said, let's dive into the tanks. Okay, we're going to start here in Running River. And you can see there's a whole bunch of hair algae all throughout here. We got to clean that up. It's really overgrown. These stems kind of up the top have gone crazy. You can just see that. I've got to clean that up. But what we're going to do is get a lot of this excess needle leaf Java fern that's through here. I have a lot of young Jacobsonite pink, but I want to leave that in this tank as it is. And this tank's going to get some overhaul before our fish room tour. But you can see I've got plenty of Java fern over there, a bunch of it up front. So what we're going to do is clean up all this hair algae and then pull out several clusters of this needle leaf to thin it back down because it's really overgrown. And also get it ready for auction. So I'm going to do that. We'll check back in. See, Running River quiet, a lot better. More light coming through. I have light all the way to the back, but you can still see quite a bit better, right? And then I move some of those floating stems, the ones I'm keeping down here. They've got a transition, but they should be able to do that no problem. There's still a little bit of hair algae that has to get cleaned up, but we got plenty of Java fern, and you can even see some kind of free-floating starts over there that are going to get used in another tank here soon. But it is ready to go, and the Running Rivers are begging for food. Now up here in Fallen Forest, we did a bunch of maintenance to this pretty recently, but we still have room to thin out some of these crypts. So you can see there's quite a bit of the crypt axelrodi in the back here, and then tons of Jacobsonite pink, especially in this side over this way, and then coming toward the front, that we can thin out, and it'll grow back in over time, right? It's got CO2, it's got everything it needs to be really, really effective. But what we'll do is we'll thin that out. That'll make our bags there, and that'll give us a few really awesome crypt options. Fallen Forest might be a little harder to tell, but a lot of the forward crypt Jacobsonite pinks that were here, you can kind of notice on this side, right over this way, that it's fallen back some. And it's just a matter of pulling the ones up front out. And then for the axelrodi, I also pulled mostly from the front, so kind of giving this this boost that's right here a little bit more light. But there you go. Tank still looks really good. Some free floating plants for another tank that are coming up soon. Everything's packaged up. Now over here at the Guppy Mansion, we've got kind of a different thing going on. We have 2 things we're going to pull out of here. We got a whole bunch of this crypt Wendelov that's growing all over the place. You can see it kind of coming all the way across here. We've also got some regular Java fern. I've got a different source for that, but that tank is so overgrown it's almost impossible to see anything right now. That's my 75 long that's in my front room. But that's going to be our regular Java fern. We're going to have Java fern Wendelov and the needle leaf from Running River. And then also in the corner here, you can see we got this nice bundle of Crypt Florida Sunset. So what we're going to do is thin that out a little bit and take some of those. So it'll give us basically 4 total types of crypts that we're going to sell. The last one I'm going to show you in just a sec. 3 types of Java Fern. And that should cover all of my lots for the auction pretty much. Okay, so you can see here in the Guppy tank, we took some of the Java Fern from over this way, and see the edge of a bag there. And we got a big hole here where we took a bunch of Java Fern and some of the Crypt Florida Sunset out. Got those packaged up and ready to go. Okay, so the last thing we're pulling out is here in the Leopoldi angelfish tank. You see the angels strutting around, but we've got this really nice forest of Crypt Ponderderifolia. And this is a really awesome crypt. These are all super healthy. So we're probably going to pull out 3 or 4 of these. Maybe try and do like 2 per bag. It just depends on how big each one is. But we'll give a nice, really healthy one of these for each bag. But I want to keep this pretty dense forest going because I just love the way it looks and the angels like it. So that's kind of the last thing we're doing. Bunch of Java Fern, bunch of different types of crypts. Should give us a really nice set of plants to go to the auction. Okay, so we've got all of our plants ready. I want to talk briefly, and I'll use a bag here as an example. So this is all some of the Java Fern Wendelab that came out of the Guppy Mansion. We're getting close so you can see it a little better. You can see pretty simple with a Ziploc bag. But one thing that is important to note, like a comparison of that to say like a little smaller bag, like these crypts here, right? Notice I'm not using any like paper towel or anything, but there is still, and you can hopefully see this correctly, but like I'm leaving condensation and wetness inside the bag. But I'm not using a ton of water. Like you can see a little bit built up here, but I'm not leaving like a ton of water. They're not submerged. When you're only doing this for like a day, plants don't need to be fully submerged. There's a few exceptions to that rule. Typically floating plants actually want a reasonable amount of water. But for most of your like crypts and Java Ferns and stems, they can sit with just a little bit of moisture in the bag. And if you're really paranoid about it or you have some particularly delicate plants, think like some of your rotalas and those very fine leaf stems. The only thing I do is I take a paper towel, I just fold it into a small square about yay big, and I put it into the bag wet. So that way the plant lays on top of the paper towel, everything's wet, it keeps extra humidity inside the bag, keeps the plants wet. That makes sure they're okay through the process. But for like a one-day thing, this is pretty easy peasy. Bag, label, it's good to go. Now you could use fish bags, you could double bag, you could do something far more succinct, but the main thing to keep in mind is this. Regardless of the type of bag you use, if you have a big open bag full of air, because some people will expand their bags out and they'll push some air into them, make sure there is a reasonable amount of moisture in the bag so that the plants have kind of a humid environment. Think of this kind of like being a good immersed setup where you want them to be humid even though they're exposed to air. That's going to prevent any issues with the plants, and so that the people who are purchasing them at the auction have the highest chance for success. And similarly, if you're looking at plants, if you see plants that look very dry, those are probably ones you should avoid trying to purchase at an auction. So that's it. I know this is a little impromptu and different, but I've talked a lot about like plants for profit in the past, and I've talked about other ways that I've done various, whether it's swaps or things like that. And I just kind of want to give you an idea of like when I'm prepping for a club auction, if I know the list of plants I want, which was all in this room basically, except for standard Java Fern is in my living room that way with the 75 long that you guys used to see behind me. And that's it. It's really simple. It's just taking care of your plants. Now, if you do have algae, or you do have like Java moths or something that's tied in there, the biggest thing is to take a lot of time. 1, select the plants the farthest away from the algae. And then 2, take the time to remove it as much as possible. And if you still have a mess of algae or moss or something like that that's not intentionally supposed to be on the plant, don't sell the plant. Plain and simple. Unless you like have people that don't care about that stuff. Maybe they were like, all right, free moss, cool, I'm in. Right? But if it's algae, you're going to either have to pick the leaves off that are dealing with the problems or maintain it. Another thing is like, let's say you have a big Java Fern and it's got a couple dying leaves, pick those dying leaves off. The rest of them are going to be fine. The root is really where the most important piece is. But make sure that it looks good in the bag. It's going to go into someone's tank and then not cause them a problem. And you'll have a lot of success and probably have a good chance to make a decent amount of money. I hope you enjoyed this little video. Please give it a like, thumbs up, all the usual things. Leave a comment down below. Which plant would you be the most interested in seeing at your local club auction if I was the one coming to see you with my current list? Is there a particular plant that you're surprised I'm not selling? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome.